Welcome back to a new chapter of Under the Enchanted Sky. I hope you enjoy this dive into Harry and Hermione's journey. This is my very own story, and it's been so much fun bringing their emotions and untold moments to life. Thank you so much for listening and supporting Elenora's fan world. And for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the magic. Chapter 2. Under the Enchanted Sky. The quiet of the corridors was a stark contrast to the bustling energy in the Great Hall, where preparations for the Yule Ball were reaching fever pitch. Harry stole a glance at Hermione as they walked. Her face was calm, but the faint blush on her cheeks hadn't faded since their conversation. He wasn't sure what to make of it. Hermione was his best friend, reliable, brilliant Hermione, but lately he'd been noticing things about her he hadn't before. The way her laughter seemed to brighten even the dreariest days, the determination in her eyes when she was solving a problem, the way her hair framed her face when she was deep in thought. He shook the thoughts away. She was his friend. That was all. "So," Hermione said, breaking the silence, "have you decided what you're wearing to the ball?" Harry blinked, caught off guard by the sudden question. Dress robes, I guess?" Hermione rolled her eyes, but smiled. "Harry, you're hopeless. Do they at least fit properly?" Harry shrugged. "They'll do." Hermione sighed, shaking her head. Typical, typical. They stopped outside the Gryffindor common room, the fat lady eyeing them curiously as she waited for the password. "Well," Hermione said, turning to him, "thanks for walking me back. I should probably get some sleep. Big day tomorrow." "Yeah?" Harry said, scratching the back of his neck. "Big day." For a moment, they stood there, neither moving to speak the password. The strange tension from the library crept back in, and Harry found himself wanting to say something, anything, to break it. But Hermione beat him to it. "Good night, Harry," she said softly, her lips curving into a small smile. "Good night, Hermione." As the portrait swung open and Hermione disappeared inside, Harry stood there for a moment, staring after her. He couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed between them, something he didn't quite understand yet. The next day passed in a blur of last-minute preparations. Students darted through the halls, their excitement infectious. Even the professors seemed caught up in the festive mood, their stern faces softened by the prospect of the evening ahead. Harry spent most of the day avoiding Ron, who was still sulking about not having a date. The tension between Ron and Hermione had only grown since the night before, and Harry wasn't in the mood to play mediator. Instead, he focused on getting ready for the ball. When the time came, he found himself standing in front of the mirror in his dormitory, adjusting his tie for what felt like the 100th time. His dress robes were simple but well-fitted, a far cry from the disastrous hand-me-downs Ron had been saddled with. "You look fine," Neville said, offering an encouraging smile as he finished buttoning his own robes. "Thanks," Harry muttered, though he wasn't sure he believed it. As the boys made their way down to the common room, Harry's heart began to race. Hermione had promised to meet him there, and he couldn't help but wonder how she would look. He wasn't sure why the thought made him so nervous. When he reached the bottom of the stairs, his breath caught. Hermione stood near the fireplace, her periwinkle blue dress robes shimmering in the firelight. Her hair was sleek and shiny, her curls tamed into an elegant updo. She looked stunning. "Hi, Harry," she said, her voice shy but warm. "Hi," he managed, his throat suddenly dry. She smiled, a hint of amusement in her eyes. "You clean up well." "So do you," he said, the words coming out more earnestly than he'd intended. Hermione's cheeks turned pink, but her smile widened. Shall we? Shall we?" He offered her his arm, and together they made their way to the Great Hall. The Great Hall was transformed into a winter wonderland. Enchanted snowflakes drifted from the ceiling, shimmering in the light of floating candles. Frosted evergreen trees lined the walls, their branches glittering with icicles. The magical orchestra played a soft melody, filling the room with an air of elegance and romance. Harry and Hermione stepped inside, their arms still linked. Harry couldn't help but notice the way other students glanced at them, some with admiration, others with curiosity. It was strange, being the center of attention for something other than Quidditch or the Triwizard Tournament. You alright? Hermione asked, her voice cutting through his thoughts. Yeah, Harry said, offering her a small smile. Just taking it all in. She nodded, her own gaze sweeping across the room. It's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, he said, though his eyes weren't on the decorations. As the orchestra struck up a livelier tune, couples began making their way to the dance floor. Hermione turned to him, her expression expectant. Well, she said, raising an eyebrow. Harry blinked. Well, what? Aren't you going to ask me to dance? Harry's stomach flipped. Sure. Do you, want to dance? Hermione laughed softly, her eyes sparkling. I thought you'd never ask. Taking her hand, he led her onto the dance floor. His nerves were still frayed, but the warmth of her hand in his steadied him. As they began to move, he focused on following her lead, grateful for her patience as he stumbled through the steps. You're doing fine, Hermione said, her voice reassuring. Thanks, Harry muttered, though he still felt clumsy compared to the graceful couples around them. But as the song continued, he found himself relaxing. Hermione's laughter, her smile, the way her eyes met his, it was all so disarming, so natural. For a moment, it felt like they were the only two people in the room. After a few dances, Hermione suggested they step outside for some air. The gardens were quiet, the muffled sounds of the ball fading into the background. Snow blanketed the hedges, the moon casting a silvery glow over the landscape. It's nice out here, Hermione said, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. Yeah, Harry agreed, his hands shoved into his pockets. They wandered in silence for a while, the only sound the crunch of snow beneath their feet. Harry could feel the tension building again, the same tension that had lingered in the library and followed them into the night. Hermione, he said finally, his voice hesitant. She stopped walking and turned to face him, her expression curious. Yes. I wanted to say thanks for coming with me tonight. Hermione smiled, her eyes soft. You don't have to thank me, Harry. I'm glad we came together. Me too, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. For a moment they simply stood there, the silence between them, heavy with unspoken words. Harry wasn't sure what compelled him to step closer, but before he knew it, he was inches away from her, his heart pounding in his chest. Hermione. Yes, she whispered, her voice breathless. But before he could say anything more, the sound of footsteps interrupted them, and they both turned to see Ron approaching, his expression dark. And that's it for this chapter of Under the Enchanted Sky. I hope you enjoyed this dive into Harry and Hermione's journey through the Yule Ball and beyond. This is my very own story, and it's been so much fun bringing their emotions and untold moments to life. What did you think? Did you enjoy the way the tension between Harry, Hermione, and Ron unfolded? I'd love to hear your thoughts, favorite moments, or even your predictions for where the story might go next. If you liked this, don't forget to like, comment, and share. It helps so much to keep this magical journey going. And of course, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next chapter or any of the other incredible fanfiction content I've got lined up. Thank you so much for listening and supporting Eleanor's fan world. See you next time, and until then, stay magical.